Hello everyone, Manic Monster Masher here today with a bit of a different video. I am in the processes of building a campaign setting to use for my next D&D campaign. However, I don't know if it's actually going to be D&D. I'm in the process of figuring out what system would best. The setting I'm going for here. Anyway, as you can tell from the thumbnail, it is called The New World, and it is loosely based on, well, I mean, I say loosely based, but it's pretty actually heavily based on the American West, as well as, 1800s America in general. And instead of Dungeons & Dragons, it is more like Beholders and Revolvers. So, I'm going to go over the general gist setting, and these videos are really just meant to give people ideas. Not every fantasy world that you come up with D&D needs to be Faerun or Greyhawk, or, Athos or Ravenloft, whatever. The famous settings. You can make your own. It's a little more difficult than just taking a setting. I think a lot of people just put whatever adventure in and assume that it's just Faerun, and that works, but if you're looking for something specific, you're going to have to make it on your own. So, as you can tell, it is heavily based on the American West. It is called The New World. It is the fantasy world that I'm using actually uses the same map, I guess you could say it, or geography. It uses the same map as our world does. So America is, they don't call it America, but it's literally the exact shape of the United States of America. Africa, Europe, Middle East, Asia, all those continents are still there, and they all have the same geography. The biggest difference in geography, and basically the only one that I have, and I mean, we could come up with more as the setting progresses, is a mountain range called the Sunset Mountain Range that runs all the way from Canada through the Dakotas into Texas and into Mexico. This mountain range is not like your typical Western mountain range. It's not the Rocky Mountains. It is more like Himalayas. Every peak is Mount Everest type mountains. Very difficult to cross. The reason I did that is because I wanted this to be based on reality, but I also wanted there to be a clear separation from the old world and the new world, or you could say from the old world to the frontier. Anything past the Sunset Mountains is considered the frontier. You have, they're not Native Americans, but whatever I'm going to end up calling them, this world's version of Native Americans all live in the western part of the United States, or whatever I'm going to call it, probably just the frontier. And that's the Sunset Mountain Range has prevented essentially what happened in our world, where the federal government came in and, well, there's no better way of putting this. Our federal government, good old Uncle Sam, committed genocide and other terrible things upon the native population, taking their lands. In my version of this world, because of the Sunset Mountains are so unpassable, that sort of thing hasn't happened, or at least yet. There has been no land grab by the federal government in this world. What I'm calling the Republic, very Star Wars, but an apt name, is essentially the original 13 colonies. Very British in culture. And keep in mind, this culture is one that consists of elves, dwarves, humans, very cosmopolitan, but very, tricorn hats, and are still in in the Republic. And then past that, you have past the Sunset Mountains. Like I said, you have the frontier. It is essentially, there are colonies, especially in what we would consider to be like California and Mexico, the like stuff that you can get to via ship. Those exist, but they're very sparse. You know, just like the 1800s, there weren't that many towns in what we would call the American West. Very small mining towns, small trading posts, the occasional military fort, stuff like that. I could get into the internal politics in this video, but I probably won't, because there is some stuff that I have planned in terms of how the native tribes interact with the Republic, and how they interact with these small towns and mining companies and the like. It's nothing too crazy. Like if you're coming into this expecting Native Americans or their equivalent to be treated like they are in old spaghetti westerns, that's not the case. You know, these are not the bad guys of the setting, as it were. They are just a people that live beyond the mountains, and they share a continent with a newly built democracy that has recently won its freedom. Going into that, just like in our world, there was a revolutionary war between what I am calling the Republic and what I am calling the Kingdom. The Kingdom is essentially not just Great Britain, but it is all of Europe. And it is ruled by an ancient golden dragon who has ruled over the kingdom for over 500 years. And the reason, you know, the Republic seceded from the kingdom is essentially the same reason that we seceded from United Kingdom in the 1700s. You know, taxation without representation, all that stuff. It's essentially the same, just replace King George with a dragon. The other thing I wanted to get into is because, you know, this is a fantasy version of our world. The gods are very much real in this version of our world. Most people of European descent, elves, humans, dwarves, most of those people from Europe worship the Viking pantheon. You know, Odin, Thor, Loki, Hel, Tyr, Frey, all those guys. There's very few monotheistic religions. Most religions are worshipped as a pantheon. So the reason I'm using Vikings, you know, is the Viking pantheon is to really tie in our world to theirs. And there are other pantheons. For instance, I'm using the Greek and Roman pantheon, part of the Egyptian pantheon, some Aztec stuff for the people that live in Mexico, or this world's version of Mexico, I should say. Keep in mind the borders are completely different from what our real world is. Even though it uses the same geography and map, everything is very, very different. You know, like how different would our world be if elves and dwarves were actually elves, dwarves, gods? How different would our world be if those things actually existed? It'd be, you know, much different than what it is. Being said, magic, you know, typical, just as powerful as it is on Faerun. This is not a low magic setting by any stroke of the means. You know, there's still wizards and sorcerers and warlocks. You know, they can still be very, very powerful magic casters. Guns also are in the setting. You know, this is a Western setting, so you know, you definitely have your revolvers, your lever action rifles, muskets, ball and cap pistols, you know, the like. Anything that you would have seen technologically in the 1800s is represented here. That being said, there are instances of, you know, advanced technology, which we will go into when we go into the fantasy races that I have created for the setting. I have remixed a lot of your typical. Sorry, flipping through my pages here. I've remixed a lot of the typical fantasy races you would find. Instead of, for example, there are no lizard folk on this world. There are actually gator folk who live in the Republic, and they live in what we would call Florida and Louisiana in our world. I don't know what I'm going to call it. And the reason I am using so much of our real world is because our real world is something that I have a, firm grasp on. I know where Florida is, so that's really the reason why I'm using the setting I am. Now, that being said, like, if you want your character to be like samurai from Japan, absolutely go for it. That's totally fine. I don't have, because the main focus is on the frontier and the new world, I'm not really writing a whole lot of stuff for like Europe and Asia. All the stuff I've written so far is new world stuff. That being said, stuff like elves and orcs and dwarves, they existed in Europe. They're immigrants, just like the humans are to the New World. Well, the European or equivalent of European humans are to the New World. Obviously, the equivalent of Native Americans would be, native. I just wanted to kind of go over if anyone has any cool ideas. So far, I think the next video I'm gonna make is the races of the world. Elves, dwarves. I give you a little preview here. I have elves, dwarves, gator folk, orcs, minotaurs, warforged, and humans. The warforged lore I'm actually particularly proud of because I did a lot of writing for it. So, if you want to hear more about my custom world setting, keep listening. I will be uploading some videos on it as I get more writing done. I'm pretty proud with what I have right now. Anyway, if you like what you well, I mean, I'm not doing much showing this video because, it's a concept video, but if you like this video and you like the idea of fantasy in the Wild West, go ahead and subscribe. And whatever your favorite YouTuber says at the end of their videos, pretend I said that. Thanks.